Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be part 3 of my homeless in LA experience. If you haven't seen part 1 or 2, go back to those videos so you can catch up. This video is going to be about the transitional house experience. I lived in a homeless shelter in downtown LA for 2 days and 2 nights, and a counselor at the homeless shelter recommended for me to go to what is called a transitional house. And a transitional house is a housing provided to former homeless people or people who are on drugs or alcohol to transition back into society. And so I went to a transitional house that was in Long Beach, California. So I had to travel from Long Beach up to LA where I was working full time. And at the transitional house, we actually had to pay rent. So you had to have a job or some source of income so you can pay rent. It was a duplex. There was a house on top that had some people in it that weren't part of the transitional house. And then the one on the bottom was the transitional house. It was like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. We were responsible for, cleaning the house. So I went there and I talked to the house manager, and it was like 6 of us all in the house. I shared a room with 2 other guys. And for that day, I think it was on Saturday, so I was off work. So that day, I got to know them. We hung out. We went grocery shopping. Just them getting to know me and me getting to know them. And so, real late at night, probably around 12 midnight, 12:30, something like that. I'm in the bed, and one of the guys brings in a girl, and so it's 3 beds in the room. In the bedroom, there's a dresser, there's a closet, regular stuff. So I'm in my bed, and so he sort of introduces the girl to me and the other guy that was there, and said that they were just going to chill in the bedroom. So they actually sat on his bed talking, and I just turned my back toward the wall. Then you could hear them laughing and kissing and things like that. And then I guess I dozed off because the next thing I know, I hear this screaming, "Get down, get down, get down, get down!" And I turn around, and there are lights, like flashlights, like going like this, coming toward me in the room. And so I'm like, what the? And so I see, and it's police. They're raiding. Police are actually raiding the house. And so they grab me and they say, "Get out, get out, get out!" And so they're pushing me out the door, out the front door. They have flashlights in our face. I can't see. I don't know what's going on. They line us up like we're in a firing range line. They line up all of us guys up, and I can see that there's a woman and there's 2 girls. There's another man out there. And so the guy who brought the girl, they call him out of the line and take him over there. And I guess they explained what was going on. And so the cops end up leaving, and we were all able to come back inside the house. Come to find out, he met the girl. She was underage and he did not know. And so when he met the girl, it was her and her cousin. So she left with him to come back to the house, and her cousin went and told her mom, her parents. And since her cousin knew where the house was, the parents called the police, said that their daughter was abducted, and da 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 da. So it was a whole big mess, and I was like, it was crazy. And so, but the thing was that the duplex above us, that they were a family up there. They did not know that it was a transitional house under them. Basically, they told the landlord, either you get this transitional house, these people out from under us, or we're going to leave. So the landlord ended up breaking. I don't know if they had a contract or whatever, but basically he said no more transition house. We got to go. So I end up being homeless again. So I this was, I think, on, maybe it was on a Sunday that I went to the transition house, because the next day I had to go to work with my bag again, my poor little bag, coming back to work, and I put it under my desk again. Nobody said anything about it, and so that was Monday. And so after work, I got off at 5, and I went right back to Hollywood, the area, in front of the Pantages Theater, actually across the street where the subway is, where you get to the train. And I sat there with my bag, and I'm like, oh, I am homeless again. And there were other homeless, or other people sitting there, and actually a group that advocates for the homeless, they came and they were asking people, are you homeless? Are you homeless? And they were about to get to me, and my phone rung. And it was the counselor from the homeless shelter again. He said, okay, I know what happened. I got another place in Long Beach for you to stay, another transition house. And so as soon as he said that, the people who were advocating for homeless, I forgot the name of the group, they came and they said, are you homeless? I said, oh, not anymore. So I took my bag and I got on the train, the blue line, all the way to Long Beach. He gave me a address. I went, and this was even a bigger place. It actually was like 4 different garden apartments, and the house manager had one, and then there was one for men, and then there was one for women, and so it was like 4 in a little courtyard, and then there was a yard at the back. So I end up going to that transitional house, and the strangest thing was, at this house, the 2 guys that I shared a room at the other house that the police came, they were my roommates again at this house. I was like, what the? So I was like, okay, mister, you need to watch the women you bring, and da 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 da. So he was laughing about it. He was like, I didn't know she was underage. She didn't look underage. She didn't tell me, da 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 da. So, we sort of had a good laugh about it. So I stayed at that transitional house for a while. I ended up staying there maybe a month and a half. And with this house, the transitional house, I told you have to pay rent on the bed or room. You have to clean up. And with this one, you also had to sign out wherever you go. If you came home, if you get in ready to go to work in the morning, you have to sign out and put going to work. Then when you came home, they basically was keeping track of these people at this place. And then they had meetings that you had to go to. And so the house manager said the same thing that the counselor at the homeless shelter. He was like, you don't look like you have a drug or alcohol problem. This is one of those transition houses for people who are getting off drugs and alcohol. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but I don't. He said, okay, well, I'm going to let you stay, but you have to come to the meetings anyway. You have to participate as if you had the problem. And so I said, okay. And so we would have the meetings, and the guys would go around. They would talk about their problems and this and that. And, one guy, his wife left him. She took his daughter, but she would let the daughter come visit him. It was just all very depressing. And then he would come to me and be like, do you have anything to say? I'm like, nope, nothing at all. And then they would go around the circle. And it was, the guys there seemed, they, in the transition house, they were acting like what I thought the people in the homeless shelter was going to act. Even though they were in the transitional house, they had a roof, they had jobs because they had to pay. They were also, not all of them, but most of the guys, I think it was 3 of us in the back room. Then there was 2, then there was 1. So there was like 6 guys in this one also. And they seemed more depressed, more hopeless in that transitional house environment. Like there was no hope for them, like this was it. So it was really very depressing. But I end up, like I said, being there for about a month and a half, and then I went to a play. Now all this time I have a job, so I don't make enough money to pay for my own apartment by myself because LA is expensive. So I'm using that money to pay for the transitional house, which I don't really remember how much it was, but I was using my job money, some of my job money to pay for that. And so I end up going to this play with this actor, and uh, he was he was telling me when I met him, I didn't recognize him, and so he kept saying, "Oh, you know who I am. You know who I am," and I was like, "No, I don't." And so we went to the play, and another group of his friends were invited, and I had met him through someone else. So um, actually, I met him through my cousin, and so we were standing outside the theater, and all these actors that I do recognize were coming up, shaking his hand, you know, asking him, and I'm like, "Who is this? Who are you?" And he said, "You know me." He kept saying, "You know me," but that's another story. I may not even get into that story because But anyway, I was at this show with the actor. The play was not very good at all, and so after that, we all went to his house, and we stayed the night, spent the night there, and then this was on a Saturday, and then on Sunday, uh, we stayed there. He had a party, and a lot of people, a lot of guests came. And then on Sunday night, two of his guests were leaving, and they were going to drive back to LA because he stayed outside of LA. And so they were driving back to LA. And so I said, "Oh, well, can I get a ride with you guys?" So they dropped me back off in front of the Pantages Theater, well, across the street where the subway is, the Red Line subway. They dropped me off. The W Hotel is there now, but the subway is still there. And so they dropped me off in that subway. So I went down to the subway to get the blue line from the red line to get the blue line to go back to Long Beach to go to the transitional house that I was living in. So as I got on that train, um, this guy, he was on the train. We started talking, getting along, laughing. And so when I got to my stop at Long Beach, he got off with me and we were talking. And then I told him about my situation, and he was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a roommate." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a roommate." And so I was like, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, come by, see the place. It's small. It's in LA. See if you like it. Come by after work uh, on Monday, on tomorrow." And so I said, "Oh, okay." And so after work Monday, I went, and he lived right close to my job, like not that far from downtown LA. So from my job, I went to his apartment, and it was small, like he said, but it was an apartment. It wasn't a transition house. I would be free.